Welcome to Diverse Orange, our conversations about diversity here in Central Florida. My guest today is Christina Hollerbach. Hello,
Hello.
Christina.
Thank you for having me.
Well, many people in Central Florida recognize the name Hollerbach from the big Hollerbach German conglomeration there in Sanford. And that's your conglomeration, correct?
Yes, it is. My family started Hollerbach's German restaurant over 22 years ago, and I became CEO in 2020. So it's been a long and interesting road.
I'm assuming that means that you have some German heritage.
I do. So my dad is directly from Germany. He immigrated over in the 70s. His mom fell in love with the GI and moved to the United States without him to kind of get situated and comfortable, and then eventually sent for him from Germany, where he then had to integrate with two new sisters and the American school system. And he worked really hard to assimilate and get rid of his accent and start his journey here in the U.S. and eventually even became. He ended up joining the Army when he turned 18 and got stationed in Hawaii. So he's had an interesting transition into American life.
And so when he came over, was it to Central Florida?
Yes, they were stationed right near that base off of Highway 50 in Orlando. So that's where he initially moved and grew up. He went to Colonial High School. And it's definitely an interesting journey. And he loved Hawaii, but now he says he still has a love of Spam, but not so much for pineapples and papayas. He's like done with tropical fruit for the rest of his life.
Oh no.
But when he got out of the service and came back to Orlando, he met my mom of all places. And if people are from Orlando back in the day, the infinite mushroom. Do you guys remember that story?
Yes.
So that's where my parents actually met, was the infinite mushroom. And they eventually, fell in love, started dating, and worked together at the Schnitzel House that was originally in downtown Orlando so long ago. And even the guy who played accordion at their wedding is Jimmy Hortson, who plays the accordion for us now in our restaurant. So they had early beginnings of trying to find and appreciate his heritage again, even in the workforce. And the pictures from the Schnitzel House astound me. Like, one, smoking in restaurants, like, looking at it now, I'm just like, oh, is this normal? Smoking in the kitchen even. But my parents both wearing, German vests and lederhosen and dirndls, and appreciating that part of their culture, even back then in the 80s, before they had me.
And so by the time they had you, they had the Hollerbach's restaurants?
Oh no, so I was born in Orlando as well. I ended up going to Edgewater High School in St. Charles Borromeo, and we bought the restaurant in 2001. But we still lived in Orlando, and they commuted to Sanford every day because they wanted me to stay and graduate at the high school I started in. So we didn't move to Sanford in 2005 when I graduated from Edgewater.
So someone had started a German restaurant before that they purchased?
Oh no, so the Willow Tree Cafe was in existence for about 10 years before we bought it. There was a German lady, her name was Ellen. And there's a couple signature items that still remain from her menu, like the famous Willow Trees chicken salad. But the majority of the menu has changed. And when we came to Sanford, 20 plus years ago, even the German lady, who was really glad to sell it to my dad and our family and give us a chance, when he told her that we intended to make it a German restaurant, she's like, "You're going to fail. Sanford doesn't want that. Central Florida is not ready for it. She's tried, and other people have tried, and you can do it." But she's like, "I'm just going to get my money back if you do that." And proved her wrong, but it was definitely a hard
guess. I mean, I was there just a week ago or so, and I mean, was it as big as it is now when you got it?
So when we first got the restaurant, we had 7 employees and about 60 seats. And it was in just a middle section. So it was a huge building, and there was antiques shops flanked on either side and nothing upstairs. And we just took over the lease in that middle section. And it was the only lunch business, open like maybe 4 or 5 days a week. No hood system, which means cold kitchen. There's no fryer. There's no flat top. There's no ovens. It was just like a soup and salad kind of place with sandwiches. So we evolved a lot. We embraced the community, got lots of buy-in and feedback from them about testing specials or testing cakes, and getting them excited about what we had to offer. So it was a balance of introducing them to German food while also making things that were comfortable and approachable for the guests that we already had. But it has grown a lot. We are now over 160 employees, and I see about 8,000 guests a week at the restaurant.
Wow. And there's also a German store for clothing, etc.
Yes. So our clothing store and our delicatessen, they're all, on the same street with each other. And speaking of heritage, what the best way I think to celebrate heritage, no matter where you're from, is through food, because that's usually, we call it Gemutlichkeit. It's a German word that doesn't necessarily translate directly, but it means that feeling you get sharing good food and drink with friends and family. And so I mean, every culture has that experience of sharing food with friends and family. So I think it's the best way to learn about somebody, to hear stories. So the fact that we get to do that all the time, sharing what we consider a family meal with everyone, and with the clothing store too, like celebrating our festivals, celebrating, the heritage of some of those dresses and the lederhosen and all the things that come with that. And I really also love, like, anyone who American that was like stationed in Germany, the look on their face when they go into a deli and they see that product they fell in love with that they haven't seen in 10 years, or a certain smell, transports you to those experiences and those memories. And it's a really cool job to have.
Your knowledge and passion for German culture, food, etc., did that just come from your father, or are there other influences that you've brought to this?
So, I mean, it is a little complicated. My dad did not teach me German as a kid. And I know lots of words now. I would not say I'm fluent at all. It is one of my wishes to join one of those immersion programs where you're only allowed to speak that for 2 weeks straight until you learn. But, like I said, when he moved over here, it wasn't cool to be German, it was still in the 70s. And I meet British people today who want nothing to do with me. So it's, it wasn't something he was necessarily proud of. And even, when he started working at the German restaurant in Orlando, that was kind of his first time embracing that culture again and making that part of his life, because it was not for a very long time. But, he does have a lot of good memories associated with it, especially cooking with his grandparents, which I got to meet before they passed in Germany. So there are definitely memories he has of Germany that are very connected to food and connected to that culture that he's glad he can embrace. He always wanted to have a restaurant. That part of him has never changed. But German wasn't necessarily always the thing until my mom kind of was like, no, this is your passion. This is, I hate saying your truth, but it is your truth. So embrace that. And my mom is an amazing lady, but she was one of the first female managers for Ponderosa in Central Florida. And they gave her all the tough stores. She did the Cimarron, the Pine Hills one, but she's a tough cookie. And I love the energy that both of my parents bring to the restaurant world, because my dad was very focused on hospitality experience and culture, and my mom was very experienced in how to actually run a restaurant and to be in leadership and get people to follow you and have a really good plan. So the merger of both of those experiences really created something amazing. And I know both my parents would tell you that this would not be the way it is without both of them and feeding off each other to make it what it is today.
How often do you get to Germany?
I haven't been in a while. We had a trip planned during the COVID year, and I have not been since, I think, maybe even 2014, 2015. My parents go back more often, but that also is because I'm always holding down the fort, and it's hard for me to get away. So I have not been in a while, but my parents go often. And we
Right.
actually had, so it's my great aunt, because it's my dad's, I don't know. This is my dad's mom's sister. What is that? That's a great aunt to me. I don't know. But she was down with her daughter and their family, and it was the first time his aunt has seen the restaurant, because she's in her late 80s, very healthy woman, and I'm very jealous. She's fashionable and extremely healthy. But she got to see the restaurant for the first time. They'd seen pictures and videos and all that stuff, but it's the first time she's come to America since, I think, the 90s. So that was a really cool trip that we got to show them. Of course, they came down during that hurricane, so they also got to experience another Florida favorite.
Well, you certainly have brought German culture to Central Florida. Your family, as Hollerbach, has grown so much. Thank you for that, and thank you for. We didn't get a chance to get into all the things you do in the community, but thank you for all you do to make our community a better place.
No worries. If it has to do with arts and culture, I'm 100% on board, because I love sharing that with other people.
Great. And I'm looking forward to our diversitastic dining experience at Hollerbach on January 25th. Thank you all for watching this edition of Diverse Orange.